Hi there. You're watching Sipping Off the Cuff on Tequila Aficionado Media. You're also listening to us on the podcast and on that podcast channel. I'm Mike Morales here in San Antonio. That young man out there is
Eric Zandona in Vancouver, Washington.
Eric, and I have been keeping each other company while keeping our distance socially. Boy, there's an oxymoron for the 21st century. Social distancing. Wow. Isn't that what we've all been doing anyway? I mean,
I thought that's what smartphones were for.
Yeah, I know, really, huh? So anyway, Eric and I have been tasting Toro de Lidia tequila, and personally, I've been after this tequila for like a year and a half, trying to get samples, probably even longer than that. And I finally got a channel through to the importer and a small distributor here in South Texas.
Mm-hmm.
The Blanco Spectacular, brand of promise winner. The Reposado was a bit disappointing.
Yeah.
So we've got the Anejo now that comes in a kind of a red tinged bottle.
Yeah.
And we're just going to pour it and taste it and tell you what we think. And then we're going to give you all the stats and stories behind that. So and we just broke the seal on these. I honestly have not had this whole line. When they were presented to me, I had I had some half-empty bottles that were brought to me. This is almost the same color as, just a hair over.
Touch darker, which is interesting because it's about twice as old as the Reposado.
Really?
Yeah.
I've got some very even legs and tears. I mean, there's nothing off-putting. Very, very nice. Oh yeah, very nice. Nice legs and tears.
Mm-hmm.
Not super clingy, but just naturally clinging to the glass. I'm using a Stasel Jarrito that I normally use for mezcal, and then Eric has his Glencairn.
Yeah.
Well, the wood notes are shining through on this one.
Yeah.
It was really weird because the Reposado was muted all the way around.
Yeah.
I think it needed a little time to open up, and then when it opened up, it was just all barrel, really.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm getting some fruitiness out of this a little bit. Like we talked about some mango earlier with the Blanco. I feel like there's something going on there. There's a little bit of that like light melon character that I think I've described that as a through line that I think is coming from the fermentation because they're using a natural fermentation. But again, fairly light nose, but it's also 40% alcohol, so it's 80 proof. Which, sometimes it that varies depending on the producer, right? Some 40% are huge and some are very, soft. So
Well, definitely more wood notes on the aroma that I'm getting. I know that I had to really bury my nose in my jarrito just to get any kind of notes, which was odd. I've never had that happen with using this glass. But I am getting more of the wood notes.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive in. Let's see what we
let's
taste.
try it.
Boy, sweet on that palate.
Yeah.
The longer you let it sit there, the sweeter. I mean, the natural sweetness that I think we mentioned when we tasted the Blanco.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That you thought was like a melon, some kind of.
Yeah. Again, I think they're using a mixture of ex-bourbon barrels and French oak barrels that held cognac. And I think that mixture is really nice. But I also think that it's still sort of overpowering the agave and doesn't have quite the balance that I would want. In some ways, it reminds me of like a Nicaraguan rum, light spirit character, really lovely barrel character, nice to drink, nice to pair with a cigar, but not a lot of real like sense of the base spirit that it's coming from.
Hmm.
You know, where like a Jamaican rum or something else is going to be more funky and more, it can kind of stand out.
Right.
But where with you get some of these like Central American rums, like you don't really taste the rum, you taste the barrel, and it's nice, and it, you know, works really well in a rum and coke and a number of other things, like all positives. But sort of feel like this is in that kind of territory. It's a nice aged spirit. I wouldn't call it a nice añejo tequila though, if that makes any sense.
It does. My folks having being from Nicaragua or
Yeah.
have been, and you know, I remember growing up with Flor de Caña, which was
Yeah.
the national at the time was the national rum of
Right.
Nicaragua. Of course, it was made differently then than it is now. Now it's mass produced for the world,
Yeah.
and some of the barrel management is some of that stuff is really stellar. The older they get, the better they become.
Hmm.
But you're right. It's just rum. I've had a Centenario from Costa Rica years ago, and it's just there's nothing to it. It's just barrel. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it was the national rum drink for Costa Rica, but it paled by comparison for anything that came out of Panama, let's say,
Right.
or Nicaragua. And now, I haven't had Flor de Caña in a long time. I've had one that was brought to me a while back, and kind of reminiscent of Flor de Caña at the beginning before it's been mass produced. Now it's just a how good is your barrel, you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, this one, I was looking over the notes when you were mentioning that. This is supposedly a 75-25 mix of aged in American oak and aged in French cognac oak.
Yeah.
Um, and they age it in 1.5 years. You know, the rule for tequila is that if it's depending on who it is, where it's coming from, if it's aged anything longer than 5 years, it starts to taste like something completely different.
Yeah.
Um, would you say that this tequila would probably should be aged longer? Because we talked about the reposado being aged less. Pull the
Right.
age back. If you're going to blend it, pull it back a little bit so that the agave can shine. Would you say the reverse is true for this añejo, that maybe they should let it age longer so when they blend it, at least you get um, I don't know, double the character, or am I just making stuff up as I go along? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't, you know, I think I feel like it's,
Is it salvageable? Is what I'm saying.
yeah. So again, I feel like I'm stuck in this a little bit of a predicament because I know what I like, and say like the Rejon Extra Añejo, or was just like bursting with both barrel and agave flavor, you know, so that we found this balance that you and I love.
Right.
Great. It's not, this is not that. So I'm struggling a little bit because I'm like, am I being unfair, or am I, you know, by just saying, okay, that's my preference and so that's why then therefore this is not as good, or is it, or is that I think that is a real sort of benchmark of good añejos or extra añejos that have balance. Again, I don't feel like this is a bad spirit. I think they're doing everything right for, you know, what their process is. I just feel like, again, I feel like there will be plenty of people who will like drinking this. It's just I think for a lot of people who I think are looking for that balance between agave and barrel are going to be disappointed. And so aging it more isn't going to help it that way. So, so that like that being said, I think you know, I don't. That's a hard thing. Finding the tequila really the trick is finding the tequila drinker who likes more wood than what we sort of do in the balance. I think they'd be happy with this. I mean, the crazy thing that we talked about off screen is that this is like a $35 bottle.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna like hurt yourself if you buy it and you're like, great.
Yeah.
So
It's just, um, and you and I have had different spirits from including tequilas. We've had tequilas that sang to us, and we've had mezcals that have fallen flat on their faces.
yeah,
So I'm not going to say this just fell flat on his face, but I will say that it's okay, and it's an okay añejo, and I
yeah,
and I and it's just there to compete on the shelf space with whoever else is out there.
yeah,
But I know from the stuff that we've had from this distillery that they can do better, and
yeah.
they have done better.
Well, this is the thing too. I think they're the like both the Reposado and the Añejo are showing us that their barrel management is actually pretty good in terms of like it's not over oaked. The mixture between the blend of the American casks and the French casks, they're doing a really good job with all of that. Maybe I mean maybe it's possible. No, I don't know. I know there are some distilleries. Well, they will make their cuts differently for different brands,
Right.
and it's possible that for this brand, for whatever reason, they're making lighter cuts, so it's like it has a lighter profile going in, and then plus it's bottled at 40. So those two things combined might be contributing to, because part of me feels like tasting through the three so far is that everything they're doing is intentional. Because the problem I see sometimes with poor añejos is that they just left it in the barrel too long. They didn't know what they were doing. They weren't checking on it. They were just like, well, we'll wait a year and see what happens. And then they're like, oh, it's not that great. This has like some finesse to it. It's just lacking the like agave soul that we want out of
Right.
it. So I that's why I think I'm struggling, because I think it's showing me that the distillery, the people working there are intentional, they know what they're doing. There's something missing in one of those steps that's, you know, hurting their effort.
Well, it's so at the bottom line is it's missing an element.
Yeah.
It's missing an element. I see where you're getting at as far as the barrel management. They've even got the percentages of the 75 25 60
Yeah.
40 things like that, and I
Yeah.
like that. I like that they're being precise. Um, you're right. It could be that maybe they're making their cuts lighter. Maybe I don't know. Maybe if they reintroduce a little bit of the tails, or a little bit of the heads in the second distillation, it might bring back a little bit more of that agave character that we're looking for, so that when they put it in the barrel, it's not overpowered. Because, like you said, at this point, we have a rum, and you may as which is not what we want. We
Yeah.
want to have a little bit of agave character, and if I wanted rum, I could go get Flor de Caña or something else. You know,
I mean, to be fair, the finish is all. I'm really like as I'm talking, I'm getting more of the character from the finish, and
yeah,
it's all agave there. Like the finish, like as it lingers, it's really soft on the palate, but like what sticks around on your tongue, it's tequila, that's for sure. It's just when you're first tasting, when that sip and swallow, you're just like, it's barrel. It's there, so like, you could easily this could easily be an enjoyable añejo with a Connecticut wrapper cigar, right? And just you're not worried about your social distancing. I need some time with the kids, right? Dad's got to have his moment. Like, I'm gonna sit in the yard, smoke my cigar, have a drink. I'm not gonna think about it. I'm just gonna like be zen for a few moments.
Yeah.
It'll work. It'll work. It's just,
It's not stellar.
yeah.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I think that if there was a way to bring, I tell you what, for me, if there was a way for them to bring back that agave characteristic in both the reposado and the añejo, then you're on to something.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, the barrel management is very deliberate.
Yeah.
So whoever, you know, um, I agree. I think for the price point, you can't go wrong. If
No.
if you're looking to like Eric said, if you're looking to just social distance and be zen, this is the tequila for you.
Yeah.
But we know that they've done better, and they just, in our opinions, and it's just our opinion. That's what we're here for. Is it needs to be tweaked a little bit, and if they'd showed any agave on it at the forefront instead of in the background,
Yeah. Way in the back.
way in the back, I would be really happy with this, because then I could actually call it Rejon Light. But
Yeah.
this is not. It's very soft. I mean, the finish is like medium to nothing.
Yeah.
You know, it'll probably stand up to any cocktail. Be great in the Paloma. It's a mixer. But if you're not careful, it'll get lost it'll get lost if you do it. But yeah, I agree with you. I think hopefully the extra añejo will salvage this particular line.
We'll see.
It needs work. We'll see. That's our take on Toro de Lidia Añejo. But stick with us, because we're about to touch base with the extra añejo. You have been watching and listening to Sipping Off the Cuff on Tequila Aficionado Media on all of our channels and networks. We are everywhere, just like the coronavirus. Unlike the virus, however, we enjoy the hot weather. So let's pray for warm weather, ladies and gentlemen. And we got all kinds of tequila that you can get, that you can look at, and you can have on your shelf. If you're listening to us on Spotify, that's great. Please download the podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, hey, subscribe. If you've had this before, send us a note. Let us know. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, so that way whenever we upload a video with Eric, that you'll actually learn something instead of all the rambling I give you. And by the way, that's Eric Zandona in Washington, in Vancouver. I'm Mike Morales in San Antonio. And whatever you do, tomar sabiamente.
Sip wisely.